if I handed you a plane ticket to Alaska right now and told you to hike into the forest on the southern edge of the Kenai Peninsula, would you go? Because out there, tucked against the cliffs and the sea, there's a little place called Portlock. From a distance, it looks ordinary, just the ruins of a fishing village. But if you step closer, you'll notice something strange. Homes still standing, with furniture left behind. Tools scattered in the dirt as if dropped mid-swing. Meals abandoned halfway through. And here's the terrifying part. Nobody left gradually. Nobody packed up. One day, in the 1940s, everyone in town just walked away. Overnight, gone. History books will tell you it was because the fishing industry collapsed. But the locals? They'll tell you something else. They'll tell you Portlock wasn't abandoned because of money or because of loneliness. They'll tell you it was abandoned because something out there was hunting them. Portlock in its prime looked like any other small Alaskan fishing village. Families in wooden houses, fishermen heading out to sea, kids running along the rocky shoreline, smoke from wood stoves curling into the gray sky. A busy cannery hums with activity, but beneath that ordinary surface, something dark was stirring. It started with disappearances. A logger who never returned from the timberline. A fisherman whose boat drifted back to shore empty. At first, people shrugged it off. This is Alaska. Accidents happen, they said. But then, the bodies started to wash up. One man tangled in the tide. From a distance, it looks like a drowning. But when they pull him in, his chest has been torn open, ribs splayed like broken bars. His head, gone. Another, half buried in black sand. Both arms gone. Torn clean off. Not cut. Torn. And these weren't isolated incidents. Over time, dozens of men vanished into the trees. Some never returned. Others were discovered in pieces, scattered along the shoreline like driftwood. And here's what makes this terrifying. These were tough, hardened men. Loggers, fishermen, trappers. People who knew the wilderness and carried rifles everywhere. For them to be ripped apart like this, it was something else. Something far stronger. Fear spread fast. Men refused to enter the forest alone. Crews of 6 or 8 wouldn't go in without rifles. Families kept children inside after dark. And some nights, people swore they heard something moving in the trees. Something massive. Heavy footsteps, crunching just beyond the lantern light. And the smell, a stench like rotting meat left out in the sun. Hunters spoke of giant footprints, far too large to belong to a man. They said boulders crashed through the forest, heavier than any human could throw. Some even glimpsed a towering, dark figure moving silently between the trees. The native Alutiiq people had a name for it, Nantianak, a giant, man-like creature, covered in hair, walking upright like a human, but with strength beyond comprehension. According to legend, it is territorial, violent, and it attacks those who trespass. By the 1920s and 30s, reports of deaths and disappearances had paralyzed Portlock. Logging crews refused to work in the deep forest. Fishermen avoided certain coves. Families whispered, worried about who would vanish next. Then, in 1949, the town emptied. Families packed their belongings and fled. Tools were left behind. Meals sat unfinished on tables. The cannery, once the heartbeat of the village, abandoned. Except for one man, the postmaster. He stayed behind, alone, for nearly a year. By day, he went through the motions, sorting mail, keeping the post office running, but when night fell, slow, dread crept in. He later wrote about the nights, how the silence was wrong, not peaceful, but heavy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for him to make a mistake. He heard footsteps outside his cabin, slow, deliberate, too heavy for a man. Sometimes, he swore he heard his name called from the trees. Eventually, he left. And after that, no one ever returned. Even decades later, hunters and fishermen passing through the area still report encounters. In the 1960s and 70s, people claimed they were being stalked near the ruins. Footprints too large to be human, eyes watching from the tree line, and whispers, names called in voices that shouldn't exist. So what really happened in Portlock? Was it just superstition, amplified by isolation and fear? A cover-up for murders? Or something else entirely? A creature still roaming the Alaskan wilderness, waiting? Because the truth is, no one really knows. All we know is this: Portlock remains abandoned. The forest has claimed it. And the stories, the terrifying whispered stories, endure. Now imagine this. You're alone on the Kenai Peninsula. The wind dies down, the forest grows silent, and then you smell something foul, rotting. You hear heavy footsteps, crunching, deliberate. Would you keep walking? Would you stay the night? Would you close your eyes and try to sleep? Because maybe, just maybe, the forest is waiting. Maybe something out there remembers Portlock. And maybe it's waiting for you.